Well, the dust has finally settled on our spectacular victory in the Champions League in Ligue, toppling Paris Saint Germain, becoming the biggest team in all of France, in all of Europe. But 5 years have now passed, and I suspect the team has just been ripped apart the way it usually happens in Football Manager. Hello folks and welcome to the Tour de France 5 years later, officially episode 99 and the final episode of this series. I need to squeeze in a 100th episode somehow. Or I can just celebrate the fact that we did all this in less than 100 episodes. That's some impressive business. I know nothing about what's going to be going on in this save now. It's 5 years later. I retired my manager. I've holidayed forward. Good old temporary Kev. He of the Champions League win in Non-League to Legend is in there as our holiday manager, but I haven't looked at anything. I don't know what's gone on at Tour. Like I say, I assume the team has been completely disassembled, but let's have a little look, shall we? So, I'm still the only club legend. They finished second in the league this year. Martin Del Palacio Lange is still club captain. Liam Longley is the manager. He's only been there for a year, so they've got for a couple of managers since I left. Paris Saint Germain have been added as a competitive rivalry, which is nice to see. Capital never made it beyond club icon, so that indicates to me that he probably moved on fairly soon after I did, because he was on the cusp of becoming a legend when I was there, and you would think if he had another year or two, he would have pushed over that finish line. Is there any other of my boys who've made it on here? Magothu is also on there as a club icon, justifiably for his Champions League final penalty save. Del Palacio Lange, only favoured personnel, despite the fact we can see he's still at the club, is a surprising one. Cruz is on there as well and is our vice-captain. And Afkir Omar also on there, along with Benavides and Fowry. There's a couple of other managers who've made it onto this list. I don't know how many of those are from this save or how many of them are from the past. So this guy was tour manager for 1 year and is favoured personnel. That suggests they won something else. This guy was tour manager for the next 2 years and is favoured personnel. That suggests success has been continuing at Tour. The stadium capacity is up to 37,500 as well, which is excellent stuff. I mean, I'm giving myself a few spoilers here by looking at this. I'm only looking for numbers. You can see when facilities got upgraded, but I guess we may as well now go and have a look at what competitions have been won. So still only the one Champions League, but we are still very much competitive when it comes to Ligue 1. So that's the year we won it. Fell off the pace a little bit the next year, not even finishing top 3. But the year after, coming back and winning again, and then winning again, and then finishing second the last couple of years. There is another Europa League win in there as well. So 2037 was another League and European double, not quite the one from before. It's a little bit surprising to see us back in the Europa League so quickly, to be honest. But obviously we're still a pretty good side because we did still win the European Super Cup that year. A couple more French Cups have been won as well. The Trophée des Champions has been even won a couple of times. No sign of a Club World Cup because, as we know, it's impossible to win. But let's have a look at the league. We are going to look at the squad, obviously, in a second to see where the boys all ended up. But if we have a look at the league, it is nice to see a number of Tour victories in the last few years. It looks like the gap between us and Paris Saint Germain has stretched back out again, though. Goodness me. We've not won the league for 2 years, and it's now back to an 18-point gap between us and Paris Saint Germain again. We're back down to just the 3 Champions League qualification spots, which is not ideal for French football, despite the fact that we won the European Cup relatively recently. But we're back down at Monaco's level, and PSG seemingly have pulled out ahead of us now. The media consider us the second best team in the country, which is nice to see. Are any of these our boys? Is that... No, that's Marseille. That's Marseille. That's Monaco. We don't have anybody in the Dream 11. Well, let's have a look at the team, shall we, to see who's still here. So the current starting 11. So remember, this is 5 years later. There are not many familiar faces in that team. As expected, it has been completely ripped apart. we've got Cyril Fowry is still there, 30 years old now, with 51 caps for France. He spent his entire career at Tour, nearly 400 league games for us, over 50 goals, nearly 50 assists as well. Lovely career for him. Never quite got back to the same heights that he had at the real peak of his powers, those last 3 or 4 years of the save when he was averaging 7.2s, 7.3s. He's dropped down to be much more of an average player since then, which has coincided with his international career blossoming. He's had 8 caps this season, which is a bit of an odd one. Decore is still here as well, now 25 years old, no international caps for him, and to be honest, no real regular football for him. He's not really turned into a regular starter for us. And there are still a few of the other boys still knocking around. Surprised to see Del Palacio Langer on the bench. I think he was just on the bench for that one game, because looking at his value range, he is still an absolute superstar, still considered an elite level player on a huge salary. I was surprised to see him still at Tour, to be honest. I'm comfortable playing attacking midfield as well as central midfield. I don't think we ever used him in that attacking midfield role. Could he play that when he was with us, or is that something he's newly developed? But similar to Fowry, his absolute peak was under old Kev. 7.46, 7.69, 7.75. Since then, he's just never been used properly. Only this season has made it back into double figures for goals again after doing it consistently under my leadership. And he's just never quite been the same player again. What does the AI do to these players? It's very sad. Andre Cruz is down there on the bench as well. He turned out all right, didn't he? Is he considered an elite level striker? So he's not. He's just a striker. But he has been a consistent goal scorer forever. Kind of the opposite situation. In fact, that's not fair. He did a 7.41 and 22 goal contributions in 23 games under me. But yeah, he's one of the few that's continued to be a high-level player. 20 goals that year, 7.36 this year. Probably playing out wide if he's not hammering in the goals. He's turned out really rather nicely. And then who else have we still got here? Yacine Antoine is still knocking around. I mean, notable by all of the enormous salaries. He's got 1 cap for France, £5 million investment on him, and he's turned into a real decent level right back, possibly a little bit overpaid. Milinkovic, at 34 years old now and on the transfer list, is still at the club, but coming to the end of his time at Tour. He's been there for 10 years now. What a signing he ended up being. Remember, we signed him a little bit late. We had him on our scout reports when he was out in Serbia and couldn't sign him because we had the rule of only being able to sign players who were French or based in France. So he had to let Paris Saint Germain take him first, and then a year later moved him on to us, and he was such a key part of our team. Although, again, similar to Fowry, similar to Del Palacio Langer, never quite reached the same levels of performance without me there guiding him as he did when I was still at the club. And they are the only players who have remained. So that suggests a lot of these boys did move on relatively quickly from my departure. If we can move back to my final year. So these were the final transfers I did. I also had the Antoine and Badiashile transfers pre-arranged as well. So they were both me. The rest of this, nothing to do with me. How did he do for us? He's a manager now. Just want to see if he actually came in and played. Came in and played for 3 years. Lovely stuff. What a signing. What a hero. Who is he manager of now? I thought he said he was manager of Manchester United. He's not. I don't know how I read that as Manchester United. So immediately that season, that summer after I left, nobody significant left. So that's nice. We held it together for a year. But remember, that was a year where we ended up not even finishing in the top 3. So I'm not quite sure how it went so badly wrong. It is interesting to see that the club's transfer policy in general seems to have changed. That was my big spend year when we signed Del Palacio Langer. But other than that, we were always very conservative with our spending. Every year since, the club have gone absolutely nutso with the spending. In fact, apart from this year. So I guess this is when the players, because they didn't qualify for the Champions League, decided there would be an exodus. 70 million out, 74 million in. Christopher Robin went to Benfica for £23 million. Benavides went to Villarreal for 12 million. We lost, who on earth is Jalal Gerard? Someone that they signed. So it's selling players that were signed after I arrived. A few of them, in fact. Kaj Franson came in and went out again. Luis Vasquez came in and went out again. So that's a weird one. A few of these players that came in that summer, in fact, all three of them that came in that summer ended up leaving again the following summer. So they were all complete flops. A few, obviously, new boys coming in as well that we don't need to worry ourselves with. They're not my concern. We want to know what happened to my boys. So Nguema went to Sassuolo for £24 million 2 years after I left. That is sad. This is a guy who was a real top-level superstar for us, our captain, and he's just slumming it, messing around in Italy. That is not right. He should, similar to Fowry, he should have played his entire career at Tour, and I'm very upset to see that he left. Kevin Simon went to Porto for £19 million. The dream of a back four entirely of Kevin's is ruined. Kevin Simon and Kevin Blin left back-to-back. That very much stinks of a new manager coming in and trying to remove all remnants of me from the club. Get rid of all the Kevins. Not on board with that at all. Kevin Laurent left the same summer as well. It was a Kevin clear out. I'm not on board with any of this. And Sylvain Roux, £23.5 million to Borussia Mönchengladbach. As suspected. What do you know? He was a good striker. Why wasn't he kept around? I had him earmarked as a future star for us. And look at that. He's a future star. Still only 24 years old. Tour should be looking to bring him back. Did he become homegrown at club? Because no. Well, what a waste. We signed him at 18. He goes on to become a superstar and we don't capitalise on it in any way. We don't even get a good fee for him. And then the following summer, Omar has gone to Wolves. Weird transfers. He's gone to Wolves and failed in the Premier League. He's another one who just couldn't cope without me looking at him. All those goals under me, couldn't cope without me. Bless him. Poor old Afgir Omar. Anyone else? Youssouf Say went to Gijon. Demoulin, who was the young superstar defender that we had identified, has gone to Championship Tottenham. Oh, what a time to be alive. Oh, what a wonderful thing. Spurs got relegated. Oh, it's stunning. They didn't, not only did they get relegated, they didn't even get promoted 2 years in a row. They're going to be in the Championship for their third season in a row. Absolutely delightful. Well, after seeing all my players leave the club, I was sad, and that has cheered me right back up again. Lovely old stuff. And then the following year, Svetkovic left on a free transfer, so he never fulfilled his potential. It's quite interesting to see how these players, after I've got this reputation of not developing youth, how many of these players who were getting opportunities under me just never got a chance under the AI. Magothu, Champions League winning goalkeeper Magothu, has gone to West Brom, where he just looks like any old West Brom goalkeeper with 71 goals conceded in mid-table. How you finishing mid-table and conceding 71 goals? Goodness me. That is quite sad, seeing the level he's settled at in the Premier League. I feel like Magothu was better than that. And there's Demoulin leaving to go to Tottenham. And that brings us fully up to speed with, I mean, the Tottenham fun aside, that all seems really quite sad. So if we just check in on who is winning in the Champions League now, because obviously we're not anymore, it went back to Man City, Bayern, Newcastle, Chelsea. So French football in general has taken a little bit of a nosedive. What was our Champions League performance like post-Kev? So where are we? That was the lift. I was looking for a W. Why would you have your winning year start with an L? That was confusing. The following year, we lost in the quarterfinal. I like the fact that it's being spelt in French because we're a French club. The quart de finale. I mean, Man City, bit of a bogey team, aren't they? So lost to Man City in the quarterfinal. Didn't qualify for the Champions League. That's when the exodus happened. Get back in, lose in the Champions League quarterfinal to Man City again. Then knocked out in the group stages. And then losing to Chelsea in the quarterfinals. So, I mean, those couple of seasons where we were quite, I mean, I was going to say quite competitive. We finished fourth, we got to the quarterfinal, and then miraculously we went and won it against all the odds. And we've just gone back to where we were before. I think because it was a small club having a spectacular special season, because it all came together at the same time, I think if we wanted to establish it for the long term. That's a great moustache on Longley, by the way. I think we probably had to do it a few times and establish the club for a little bit longer. I think it's probably only to be expected that this team has kind of been disassembled. And obviously we've not gone back where we came. This is a club that when we took over, we're down in the 6th tier. Even before all the relegations, it was never a club that was competing for league titles. It was very much the West Brom of French football, bouncing back and forth between the top and second top divisions. And then obviously had the financial troubles that saw us get relegated. And we've basically become the new Monaco. It's a 3-horse. It's not a 3-horse race in France. It's still Paris Saint Germain's league. But now you've got us and Monaco fighting for that second Champions League automatic qualification spot, which I guess if we'd have been offered that at the start of the save, we'd probably take it. Monaco are no longer our parent club. I think they finally had enough of it. But yeah, got to admit, a little bit sad. But we had fun along the way, didn't we? That's the important thing. I would be 57 now in this game, wearing a polo neck, no less. I mean, I could come out of this. Right, new feature for FM23, please. I want to be able to come out of retirement now after 5 years away and do it all again. That could be episode 100. It's not going to happen, though, because the game doesn't let me, and there's no other way around it. Thank you for all the incredible support on FM22. This isn't quite the end. We still are going to have the LOLLUJO Cup. It's not going to be next week. I've mentioned this a little bit on stream. I am still streaming most days over on Twitch if you need your regular Kev fix. But there's not going to be a LOLLUJO Cup next week. I'm away this weekend. I just don't have time to put it together. It's quite a big project. So during next week, I'll be putting that together and that'll hit the channel the week after. In the meantime, there will be videos reacting to FM23 announcements as and when they happen. But otherwise, this channel is going to be a little bit quiet until the beta drops at some point in October. In the meantime, you have still got the regular Twitch streams. You have still got the content hitting LOLLUJO 2 as well, which is the highlights of those Twitch streams. So make sure you're following and subscribing to all that stuff as well. And just thank you for the support throughout FM22. And hopefully I see you all back with a few friends. Bring some friends along. Hopefully see you all back again for FM23. Thank you very much for watching, folks. And it's sad now. My poor boys put Tottenham.